Let's start with yourself and your background. When did you start boxing, or why did you start boxing?
Well, I started boxing way back in 1973 as a 9-year-old. My older brother, one of my older brothers, introduced me or took me down to the gym because you always want to be like your older brother, and I wanted to be like him. And he was on the boxing team. He didn't actually. It's so crazy. He didn't actually take me to the gym. What he did was he said to me that, do you want to be part of? Put it like this: you want to be on a boxing team, but I had no training, no anything. And this was on a Thursday, and at the time, he was, it's my, he's my stepbrother, but he's my full brother because mom's I raised him too. But he was living with my dad, and I was living with my mom. He said this was on a Thursday. He said I'll come back and get you on a Saturday, and we're going to go do some boxing. And he came back and got me on a Saturday, and it was his friends and their little brothers, and we went to Trenton Powell, which was a powerhouse here in New Jersey, here in America, Trenton, New Jersey. And we were from Plainfield, New Jersey, and we went to a boxing match. It's called exhibition fights at that time, because you don't win, you don't lose. It was good sportsmanship for all the competitors. And that was my first introduction to boxing. And I never forgot the gentleman's name. His name was Robert Gist. And we ended up fighting 4 times over the span of our career. I ended up fighting his brother 2 times. So that was the beginning of my career in boxing.
And talk to me a little bit about your exit from professional boxing. It was due to an injury, I believe.
Yes, I was forced into retirement. My last fight was obviously April of 1998. No, I'm sorry, 88. Well, I'm losing it. 1988 was my last fight, April 88, against obviously Rocky Lockridge, one of the, in my opinion, one of the greatest champions. Rocky Lockridge for the IBF junior lightweight title in Atlantic City. And, he won the last 15 rounders, and he ended up winning, obviously, won the fight, close decision. And then after that, I took off a couple months boxing, and I went back to boxing. I believe it was to start fighting again in April in New York City at the Felt Forum. And then, they had obviously strenuous medical tests, which all the states did here at that time. But abnormality was detected in the CAT scan in the shoulder cystic lesion. That's something I was born with on my brain, benign. It doesn't dissolve. It doesn't grow bigger. And after 20 professional fights and 160 amateur fights, I was beyond shocked and disbelief. And that was the end of my career. And I just felt that was God's way of saying, hey, it's time to get out. It took me a while to even get over it.
I was going to ask, did you ever feel a bit bitter towards that decision? Let's take out your hands.
Oh, without a doubt, that's an understatement. That's definitely an understatement. I was so bitter and so angry and so hurt. I don't have anything to do with boxing. I didn't watch boxing. I didn't listen to boxing. I didn't want nothing to do with boxing. But once again, boxing has been in my blood ever since I was 9 years old. So, once again, I truly believe that God was showing me and telling me, hey, you can still be in boxing, but in a different aspect, as a coach, as a teacher, as a trainer. And once again, he closed that door for me in 1988. And I started with Livingston in January 1990. So, hey.
How long was the gap between when you retired as a pro to when you started training?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
How long was the gap between when you retired to when you became a trainer?
This happened, like I said, my last fight was in 1988, April 88. My last professional boxing match was April 88. And then, took a couple months off and I wanted to start back training. I started back training and I was scheduled to fight at the great, famous Felt Forum. When that came up, and I decided that I wasn't really ready to give it up at the time, and I was looking to hopefully start anew somewhere, which was in the UK. And at that time, Lennox Lewis's first professional trainer was my mentor and teacher and trainer, which was John Davenport. And so he was, like I said, he was Lennox's first professional trainer. And so I was looking to go over to the UK, and hopefully I don't know what I was thinking, hopefully they didn't hear about me or know about me to try to get licensed over there. But lo and behold, they were well aware of me fighting for the world title and me aware of the situation. I didn't think there was at the time. And that came to a roadblock, and then the opportunity was offered to me to assist John Davenport, not only with Lennox Lewis, which obviously he won the 88 Olympics. And I met, like I said, this was in 89, basically. I tried to get everything going. And, I started working with, so it was a few months. It was like a few months. And then the opportunity, like I said, came with working as assistant with John Davenport, Lennox Lewis, and the job actually was offered to one of my other coaches that taught me, and my teammate Albert Mills, and he actually declined the offer, and he kept asking me, and I didn't really want to have anything to do with boxing, and then I decided, hey, I might as well give it a shot. And that's when I moved to England in January 1990.
What was Lennox like in the early days, so 1990? What was he like? Was he welcoming to you into the team? Did he just let John Davenport make the decisions?
No, Lennox actually was amenable. Lennox was and still is, obviously. He's a sage now. He's a professor now. He's one of the greatest, obviously, fighters that ever laced the gloves up. And so back then, he was a student of the game. He was all eyes and ears. He was, like I said, always willing to learn, always, especially anything that was good. And so he was definitely all for it. He knew that Davenport needed help. At the time, Frank Maloney had other fighters, so it wasn't just him. But he was obviously the main part. And so, me being a former fighter and still fighter at heart, and I was one of these hands-on type of trainers and teachers. And so he was definitely, it was a go for him. It was a great night, yes. And I appreciate that, even today.
As a coach, at what point did you realise there was something special about Lennox?
As a coach, you said there was something special about him?
When did you realise there was something special about him?
Well, when I realized there was something special about Lennox, when we used to see, Lennox is like how can I say? He's one of these perfectionist type of guys. He always likes to work. He works hard. He likes to get it right. That's why he's one of these chess masters. I'm a checkers guy. By the way, I'm a checkers type of guy. But he's one of these chess masters, and he likes to, figure it out. He likes to figure it out. He likes to set you up to get you in a position where he can, crown you, king you, or whatever. And so, he was one of these guys that I realized when we were in training, whether it was running, whether it was in the gym, and he was all ears to be. He was soaking all the knowledge up, everything for him to learn. And mind you, back then, after him winning the Olympics, he was already in the Olympics 4 years earlier. He was in the Olympics 4 years earlier. So what was it? 88? What is that? The 80? Won Olympics in what? 88. So 84 Olympics, he lost against, I think, in the quarters against Tyro Biggs. So, and he's already traveled all over the world. He's already had different coaches. He's already seen different styles. So when I knew Lennox was special, that he, already was exposed to all this, but he also know that he needed more to take him to another level to become world champion. So, in the gym, that's when I knew he was special. He was a blue-collar worker. He was willing to go above and beyond anything you asked him to do. And when we trained and when we ran, he didn't do it as a heavyweight. He was like a middleweight. He was like a light heavyweight, the way he ran, the way he trained. So, and he was, like I said, he soaked everything up. And so that's when I knew he was special. I should tell everybody from here in America, especially my friends and people from New Jersey, that this guy was going to be a heavyweight champion of the world. And they looked at me like I was crazy. They really did, because, at first, the people from England or the UK did not accept Lennox because he was born there, but he represented Canada in the Olympics. And then he came back to the UK to start his professional career. So people never really, and his heritage is from Jamaica, his mom and dad. So he was like, I guess you could say, like people really didn't know how to accept him or want to accept him. And so he was like in the middle. And so, but I used to tell people here in America, this guy's going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. And people actually laughed at me. They really did.
Did that ever affect Lennox, the fact that the British public didn't accept him?
Yes, it did accept him. It made his ass work harder. It made him wanted to be the best. It made him wanted to be one of the greatest. It made him, when all odds was against him, that he chose to say, hey, I'm going to take this and I'm going to show everyone what I'm made of, the fortitude, what my mom's instilled into me. Because, he has a movie coming out, and, and it tells you everything. And I didn't see it. It's not out, obviously, yet. But I've seen the trailer, and it just shows what to come from nothing to achieve something when all the odds are against you, and all the chips are down, to never give up. That self-perseverance, that work ethic, and that right there. With him, that just made him want to be one of the best ever. And obviously, as you can see, it's in the history books. He's one of the greatest heavyweight champions ever. And I'm just honored and grateful to be able to be a part of it, in a few chapters of his life and of his history, to be part of it, to make him one of the greatest champions ever.
Was Lennox the same in and out of camp, or was there two sides to Lennox?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Was there two different sides to Lennox, when he was in camp and when he was out of camp?
Well, Lennox is an enigma. I'm going to tell you that now. He's an enigma. You can never figure him out. You really can never figure him out. He's one of the smartest, keenest, observant, not just fighter, but person, people alive. He's one of these guys, you could be talking, he could be talking to someone else, or he could be in the atmosphere or in the environment, and you might not think he's paying attention. You might not think he's listening, but he's listening to everything. He's observing and everything, and so Lennox, he's always been like that as a fighter and as a person. So, and he's still like that. He's still like that. As you can see, a lot of these guys talking about they want to come out of retirement. De La Hoya, Mike Tyson, Van Holyfield. Lennox wants to be different, and he is different. He's special. He's one of these guys. He wants to be, per se, like an Ali, and he want to be like Ali. That's kudos. You want to be like Ali. So Lennox, he's one of these special guys that very, very keen, very intelligent, speaks really, very eloquently, but also has so much wisdom. He speaks like in prophecies, pretty much.
You mentioned as well that Lennox was a chess player. Was he and Emanuel Steward a match made in heaven?
Yes, he was. Yes, they were. Definitely were, because, like I said, Lennox, he's one of these guys that was always keen to learn. And obviously with Emanuel Steward, he's like the sage. He was the professor. I mean, not only Lennox wanted to learn. Everybody, even to this day, Manny's been going, I tell you, over, I believe, 8-10 years now, maybe a little longer, I think. And, I miss him so much, and we all miss him so much that because I feel I still need to learn more. So when Emanuel Steward came aboard after the Al McCall first loss against Al McCall, which Emanuel Steward trained Al McCall to beat us, Frank Maloney and myself, we actually grabbed Emanuel Steward and said, hey, you're coming with us. So when Emanuel Steward came aboard, which I've known Emanuel ever since I was 13 years old, so I knew what he could do. I loved Emanuel. And so when him and Lennox hooked up, history was some history was written already, but obviously when they hooked up, history was going to be written more.
What was special about the two of them together?
What was special about what?
The two of them together.
Well, Manny, he was not only a great teacher, a great person, but he was also a great cook too. Great cook, a great mentor, and him producing, I believe, over 25 world champions, basically from scratch. You see what I'm saying? Coming from the hard knocks of Detroit, the streets of Detroit, and being a fighter himself. You see what I'm saying? He basically, went into training and coaching after he won the Golden Glove, the National Golden Glove. But also, he was just one of these guys that he was a psychologist. He just wasn't teaching boxing. He was teaching life. And with the boxing, the special part of it was just him. I believe he specialized in big men. How to use the arms, how to use the strength, how to use the speed, balance. One of how to be smart in the ring, how to be able to all facets. And when he came aboard with Lennox, I believe I was more happy than Lennox, and that was definitely a relationship that was meant to be. And once again, history speaks for itself.
You mentioned the Oliver McCall loss. Also, Lennox lost to Hasim Rahman. How did Lennox respond to losses?
How did he respond to that loss?
To all his losses?
Well, you know what? I tell you, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you. I've said this to several people as well as when I spoke with some other media people. Lennox always said that one day, it was going to be a time like this that he was going to come up short, and I could never really understand that, but it made a lot of sense because he said that just as well as you can bask in the glory of winning, he said you also have to, when that time comes, to accept that defeat. And when he said that, not only saying that, he demonstrated that, because when we lost against Oliver McCall, it was in Wembley Stadium. I never forgot that. And obviously the hometown, the home country per se, our home field advantage, and we lost our title against Oliver McCall, Lennox's first loss. The next day, we were out and about. When I say out and about, meaning, Lennox obviously loved Chinese food, and being over in England, they had some of the best Chinese food in the world. He took the whole team out. He took the whole team out and still was out in the public, signing autographs, but also still greeting the people, not hiding. Me personally, I would, his lip was all busted up also too. So he took us all out, and we was all about in the town. Not saying that he was happy in that loss, but he kept his head up. He kept his head up to the point to the point to say, hey, the only way I can learn from this loss is to be able to accept it and learn from what not to do, and to be able to change trainers, and to be able to say, hey, I'm going to come back better. I'm going to come back better. And, the greatest champions lost. And what makes the mark of a great champion in person is what you do when you come back. You know what I mean? It's not lay down when you get put down, but get up, and how you come back. And that right there, he didn't just talk it, he walked it. And that right there gained many stripes with me, in my personal opinion with Lennox, not only as a fighter, but as a person.
Absolutely. What's your favourite memory with Lennox?
Oh man, there's so many. It's some, a lot of good ones, a few bad ones, because in any business relationship or any friendship or any professional, whatever, you have good and bad. But one of the best ones is the Gary Mason fight. That was one of Lennox his coming out fight right there. He was obviously the European champion. He was the Commonwealth champion. But them guys, the Gene Chenets and I think we beat Glenn McCorry for one of them titles. But Gary Mason was the British champion, and he was one tough son of a gun. Gary Mason, God bless his soul too. He was one tough son of a gun. He did knocking everybody out. I believe all his fights were won by knockout when he fought Lennox, up until he fought Lennox. So that was one of my favorite, not only fight, but one of my special moments with Lennox Lewis, because in that situation there too, I never forget, before the fight, the dressing rooms were right next to each other, and we could hear Gary Mason playing "Mama Said Knock You Out" by LL Cool J. And in that fight right there, obviously Lennox showed what he was about and showed what was to come in his career. And he stopped Gary Mason with a jab, or a jab. Gary Mason's eye was blowing up so big just with a jab. Lennox won that fight with a jab. I believe not just with a jab, it was other shots, but the jab was one of the ones that stopped him. And like I said, that was one of my favorite fights. and personally too, because after that win, obviously we go back to the dressing room, and we in our dressing room, and then unfortunately, this is the other side of boxing. When you come up losing, a lot of people abandon you, and we actually went over to Gary Mason's dressing room. Myself, John Davenport, Lennox Lewis, and went over to just not console him, but just to let him know, man, that it was a great fight. You know, he's a great person, and to keep your head up, man. And that on that humane part of side of it, that was a great moment for me to just to show that care. Because us as boxers and us as fighters, yeah, we're in there to concuss someone and knock them out. We're in there to win, but also at the end of the fight or the end of the match, you see most fighters give the hug, the kiss. As you can see with Mike Tyson against Lennox Lewis, he gave Lennox Lewis the kiss, on the cheek and everything, that on that, and and because they have known each other so many years, and just previously at the press conference, he was trying to kill Lennox. So that's the humanity or humane side of us in this combat sports. Yes. So that was a great moment for me.
In terms of some fighters find it hard to retire, how did Lennox deal with retirement?
Man, let me tell you something. He's one of the smartest guys, and that's what makes him great. That makes him great because after the Mike Tyson fight, Lennox actually went up to the mountain. That was the pinnacle right there, actually. He went to the mountaintop right there. Because, obviously him and Mike Tyson go way back as kids. When Lennox used to come, him and one of his coaches, Arnie, used to bring him to Custom Auto Gym in the Catskills, and they used to spar and spar some good rounds and tough rounds. And so, but after Lennox beat Mike Tyson in Memphis, Tennessee, Lennox felt he achieved everything because obviously previous before that he had beat Evander Holyfield. He had beat the two fights with Evander Holyfield. He had avenged all the losses, which was his two losses against the two guys, Hassan Rahman al-Makal, that beat him by knockouts. And so his ultimate goal was to beat a Mike Tyson. And once he did accomplish that flawlessly, Lennox, he basically, said, "Hey, I did everything that I accomplished, that I set out to do." But obviously, it was one more fight, and he was co-promoting that fight. And that fight actually was, we was in training camp for Kirk Johnson. It wasn't with Vitaly Klitschko. It was for Kirk Johnson. And so with Lennox co-promoting that fight, and with Lennox saying, "Hey, I'll give it one more go," and then for it to be changed like that, but that's what professional boxing is. You got to be ready for anybody, any and everybody. But Lennox, it wasn't hard for him to retire. He's one of these goal orientated guys that sets a goal, sets what he's going to do, and achieve it. He puts everything in and achieve it. And so once he achieved that, he was, he more or less said, "Hey, what should I do?" Even after that last fight with Vitaly Klitschko, he would only go to certain people and like myself and Emanuel Steward, certain people, and say, "Hey, what should I do? What do you think?" Because he knew that we was going to tell him the truth. We wasn't going to blow smoke up his ass. And and I'm fortunate that I was one of the ones he could come to, and I was going to tell him, good, bad, or indifferent. I was going to tell him the truth. And he said, "Hey, man, what should I do?" And I told him, honestly, this was after the Vitaly fight. I said, "If I was you, Lennox, I would fight Vitaly one more time to really whip his ass," because that was a give and go fight. That was, Vitaly gave just as much as he was taking. And, it was a good heavyweight scrap. But I said to him, I would show the world I could really beat him flawlessly, which he did. We did come out on top. But once again, with him sitting with his mom and with people that really care for him, he decided, man, this is it for me. Once you start having doubts in your mind, that was one of the good things with Lennox. Once he started having doubts, he was like, that's it for me. And I'm sure it's been numerous offers for him to come back over the years. And even now, with Mike Tyson, Holyfield, and them coming back, Lennox is like, I'm done. So you could commend him over that right there. So he's very, very smart. That's what makes him an icon. That's what makes him one of the greatest. The money don't make him.
Absolutely. Yep. That was all the questions I had. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about Lennox?
Well, once again, after all these years, I've been with Lennox Lewis from 1989. So you talking about, what was that, 30-some years. Over 30 years I've been with Lennox Lewis, associated with Lennox Lewis. And being that I'm one of his last coaches that's still here alive. Arnie, and then I forgot the other coach. One of his amateur coach passed away. Emanuel Steward's gone. The late great John Downpour's gone. He did have one other coach, Pepe Correa, one of Sugar Ray Leonard's older trainers that's still around. But I was one of the ones that started with him. And I was fortunate to be able to, when the train came to the last stop, to still be there with him. So I just want to thank him. I want to thank his mom, just to be part of this, be part of history, man, to be part of the legacy. I'm honored and grateful, man. So I do know God did have something better planned for me after he forced me in after I was forced in retirement. It was other things planned for me. I just didn't know what it was, but this was planned for me, and other things are still planned for me right now. And I just thank God for that.
Absolutely, Harold. I really appreciate your time today. I've enjoyed speaking to you.